Hello and welcome back to Josie's Art School. This is episode number 180. 180. I think in the last episode I said it was number 200. Okay, I have a goal in my head that I will be reaching episode number 200 this month, but I was just putting it out there so that you can just say in the comments, hey, this isn't 200. We will be getting there. Anyway, welcome back to Josie's Art School. Today, our theme is castles. Castles. Now, depending on when you're watching this video, it could be a beautiful winter castle, or it could just be a medieval castle, maybe something you do in grays and blacks and whites. Again, this is always about how you want to create it. I like to use a lot of color, but there are times that I will challenge myself and I won't use as much color. But as you can see from my beautiful backdrop of birds, like I'm not a fan of color. So anyway, basically, as always, what you're looking at is an 8.5 by 11 version of the project. Yes, I am working on a larger piece of paper so that you can see what I am doing. But feel free just to use this as a meditative type time where you're just going to doodle with me or draw it out fully or add elaborate details or do it inside of a journal you might have of your drawings. I have access to, right in front of me, crayons and oil pastels and watercolor paint. This is actually Artist Loft. If you are here in the United States, they're usually carried at Michael's, and it is my absolute favorite watercolors. Although I will say that we spent some time in Germany and we went into a store one time that was almost like what you would think of, not like a Walmart, but it was basically one of those stores that carried everything. Maybe a Walgreens like in the United States. And I remember over in the corner they had an art area. I'll have to show it to you sometime. And they had this watercolor pan tray. They were the best, hands down, the best watercolor paints I have ever used in my life. And it literally was in a store that was similar to a Walgreens. And I feel super sad now that I didn't just buy it all up before we came back home because my husband was stationed there for a while. And all I can say is I long for those. And from time to time, I Google to see if I can find them. And I actually did find them once, but I just never purchased them. And I will say that this Artist Loft version is a pretty good substitute. All right, let's get started. Okay, so what I'm going to do, as always, is I like to, I'm working in portrait mode, so that's when your short side of your paper is on the bottom. And I like to put a grid. So I will draw a dash line down the middle, going both ways. And this helps me plot where I want the castle to be on the page, okay? You don't have to do that. You can use whatever trick you want. You can freestyle it. It's really up to you. Just for me, it just makes it easier for me to gauge what I want to add to the page. But since the theme of this is the castle, I really don't have to worry about where trees and things are at. But it's something kind of to keep in mind if you haven't tried that before. It really has helped me. All right, so I've got my piece of paper and I've got my grid, and now I'm going to add the base of the castle. So I'm going to go above the middle line here, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'm not going all the way down to the bottom. Okay, and you can structure it again however you want. Maybe you're just here to, have some fun and not be doing it by yourself and have someone who's, talking about some things maybe you're interested in. So I'm happy to have you here. Make sure and like and subscribe because I will be posting videos at least twice a week, and I'm hoping for 3 times a week. All right, so from there, I'm going to put the 2 pillars on the side. So it's a more thin rectangle on both sides. So a little bit higher than the base. All right. So from here, I'm just going to start to build on the columns. So you can choose to do this however you like. I'm going to add one in the middle. And then I'm going to add to the side. So again, it's starting to get that feel of a castle. Adding some triangles to the top on all of them. And as you can see, I've got the base of what a castle would look like. So, of course, if you're thinking about your typical, mythological or fairy tale castle, you, of course, have that big door. Perhaps you even want to add a drawbridge. Maybe do that traditional box step pattern. And then maybe add a couple windows. Now, of course, I'm using Sharpie so you can see what I'm doing, but preferably you'd want to use a pencil. Now, I am definitely going to take advantage of having markers and oil pastels so I can get that cool effect where the water resists the oil in the oil pastel. And so if you have those available to you, I would say go ahead and start tracing windows and adding in designs without using a pencil, and just kind of intuitively decide where you want your patterns on your castle. Now you can already see that I should probably add in some sort of horizon line, so that quickly shows you that this is my land space. Maybe you even want to add a sun here, or perhaps you want to add some trees. Totally up to you. And I'm doing a more whimsical tree. Oh, another idea is you can add flags. And you want to bend the line so that it looks like it's waving in the wind. And then from here, now that you have the base, I really like to put a base down on the page. And then what I'll do is I get to be a little bit more free. So it's not that I'm finished necessarily, but as I'm starting to add color, I will start to maybe add in more details and designs as I go along. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing that right now. So as you can see, I didn't really add many windows yet. And you could also think about doing something like a brick pattern on the front of your castle. I wonder if you've ever visited a castle. During our travels in Germany, we had the good fortune of going to see castles throughout the country. And it was so fun and pretty breathtaking. Of course, we have many pictures of those adventures. We did that when our youngest was about 4 years old. And actually, Germany is my birthplace. I was an army brat, so as they like to say. And so I was born there, and my youngest sister was also born there. But as you can see, so I've put that pattern in place, and now I used an oil pastel. So this brand is also a really good brand. It's called Daler Roni. And I want to say that I got, it's 25 colors, and I want to say that I got it for a pretty reasonable price. It was a while ago. And this is one of those things when you get good quality paints and art supplies, they will last forever. I remember a couple years ago, I was working at at a school that had no art. They mostly focused on music, and they were having a hard time finding a music teacher. So one year they decided to post for art or music. And so here I am coming in, big ideas for the art, the art curriculum. And it was so funny because the principal basically gave me a budget of about $100, right? And I was kind of chuckling because I've, been, on a budget, for better, for worse, for most of the time that I've really been an artist. And so I've always found ways to find uh, different supplies without spending too much money, right? And so it was a small school of about 100 kids. Well, I have taught there now for 3 years, and the oil pastels, and we use, I pretty much pull all of the art supplies out all the time, so they have access to these supplies all the time. Well, can you believe that after 3 years and 100 kids, we still have the same oil pastels? So that just goes to show you that it wasn't, again, it wasn't really costly. I don't even think that I spent the full $100. It's just, knowing how to stretch and also knowing when to go for a high quality product as opposed to one that might be on sale or might, be something that seems like, oh, this is the worst. This is my worst pet peeve, you guys. When they market art supplies to kids and they're subpar quality, that is the worst. And I'll tell you why. And I especially feel this way about paintbrushes. It's the worst because what happens is you might have a child that might be a little bit reluctant to try creating something. And then you give them a subpar art supply, and they actually think it's because they're not creative. And it's actually because the art supply is a dud. Let's just put it that way. And yeah, it just drives me crazy. So somewhere on my channel, I do a very detailed tutorial of what paintbrushes not to buy for children and what, what watercolor paints to buy for children and for yourself, obviously. Because like I said, there's nothing worse than thinking you don't know how to use watercolor paints properly and it's just a bad brand, right? We'll name no names here. But if you have some suggestions of different art supplies that you really go to, yeah, please write them in the comments down below. Well, as you can see, I'm going my usual very colorful route with this castle, and I'm not mad about it at all. I love color. It's so funny because, right now I have a job and I'm thankful for the job and I go every day and I put my best foot forward, but it's kind of a demanding job. I'm not gonna lie, and it's not necessarily because it's a difficult job. It's just mentally demanding sometimes to be a teacher in the classroom. And I'm gonna tell you what. Sometimes it's the tulle skirt that I wear that gets me in the car to go to work that day. And my favorite blouse or whatever, it really is such a motivator. And I think even coming, and chatting with you when I am painting, there's something about it. I look forward to it. I come home and I know that I'm going to be here with my colleagues painting and just enjoying this time together, because the reality is, we have a lot to be stressed and worried about, right? We do. And for us older folks, especially, we understand, worrying really only takes you so far. And you get to the end of it, and either something happened or it didn't. And you can only do what you can do. Now, I'm not an advocate for that there isn't times where you need to be doing more. Believe me, I am not an advocate for, just let it happen to you. But I really do understand that sometimes, well, let's just say it, life is hard. Life is hard. And I don't know where we got it in our heads that even on our best days, sometimes we're dealing with hard things that we can't escape, right? And it's not supposed to be a problem-free life. And so what I take comfort in is knowing that, I spend a few, my goodness, how long do we normally stay together on these videos? 20, 30 minutes most. I know without a doubt it changes my perspective. I mean, you walk away from the project that you're doing, nothing's really changed other than you let your brain rest. And I do treat art as meditation. And I take it very seriously that I get to teach this valuable tool to kids and to adults, right? But I think adults can be a little bit more tricky because especially those who might have had a bad experience with art, sometimes they're not willing to open themselves up to it again. And that's a real shame because what somebody has done is they've robbed you of this beautiful ability to just sit with a piece of paper. I mean, you don't even really need canvas, right? This is just 11 by 14 sketch pad paper that I got in the kids art section at a Walmart. But I tell you what, did I even spend maybe $5 for 50 sheets? You know what I'm saying? It's like a form of therapy. And I just really value and appreciate it so much in my life. And I did not come to art until, very late in life, like 15 years ago. I was mostly a writer and still love to write. But this was kind of this type of thing, drawing was designated as the thing my sister and my brother did, but I didn't do it. And it was one of those things where I always had longed to do it and didn't ever get a teacher who, I guess, invited me into it in a way that I could really understand. And so I was just content to just write. And I still do write, right? But now that I also am able to do this, there's some days I feel like doing this. There's some days I feel like writing. There's some days that I, will do my podcast. But it's nice to have different things to go to at different times. So I'm putting the finishing touches here. And so I wonder what your experience has been with creating art. Has it been something you've always enjoyed? Have you put it down for a while as something too silly or frivolous? Or something you don't have time for? Well, I'm glad that you took the time today to come and create with me. Now here is where I can get really creative and really make the colors pop. I'm going to put it in a night sky. Now what's so fun is my daughter is very passionate about musical theater. And right now her high school is doing a production of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. So that is probably partially why I've got castles on the brain. But it's just so cool to see her going after her passion, and ironically, it's a creative passion. And I do feel very blessed that we have been able to just choose to give her those opportunities, you know. We are, working class family, just like so many of you, military family for us. And it hasn't always been easy, to get the things that she needs to let her pursue that. But, I mean, my goodness, if you're not going to take the shot when you're young, you can come back to it when you're older, but man, do you have to fight for it, right? So I'm just really glad that we get to see her go along that journey right now and cheer her on. And, of course, she's always known me as a creative person because she was, born, and I had really gotten into being creative again. I have an older son where he literally never has seen me this creative. And so it's like a whole other mom to him. But that's okay. It shows him that he can evolve and change as well in his life. So I think both of them get to learn valuable lessons from watching what I do. So, well, I think that I am going to call this done. I would love to see yours. So if you have a chance, you can always send it to me at my email address, wellofcreations@gmail.com. And so here you go. Let me pull it in a little closer so you can see it a little more. There we go. All right. Well, I just want to thank you again for stopping by. I just feel so honored to be able to share this with you. And I truly hope that you feel the meditative and healing effects of creating. And be sure to check out my art clubs that I have. I have subscription kits, and I also have kits that you can buy one-offs of for my art journals, for my sewing kits, and coming very, very soon, for do-it-yourself kits for creating a castle like this, or actually I'm going to have 10 other options. So make sure and stop by at my website, joseysartschool.com. See you later.